Thanks for joining us. I'm Marlin Bohling with you as we watch your ag commodity trade on a Monday. And we welcome to the studio Mr. Chris Swift of Swift Trading Incorporated in Nashville. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Been great this morning. How about yourself?
Well, I don't know if I'm that good, but I'm great. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Good.
Always good to have you come in.
And
I look forward to talking about the grain markets here with you on
Sure.
this segment here. Weaker start. Mainly the soybeans. Let's go ahead and take a look here,
Sure.
if you don't mind. So
Okay.
here's a first look at what's going on in the corn and soybean and wheat trade right now. On the corn, down 1 3/4 at 378.5. Just a couple of ticks off our low of the day, Chris. July down 2 at 394.5. Same story there. December new crop at 401.5 is down 1 3/4. On the soybean trade, at the present time, we have the March down 7. It's actually come off its lows a little bit now. We're at 918.25. We have July down 7 1/4 at 944.5. And in the wheat market on Chicago's March contract, we are 3 1/4 lower now at 516 3/4. Kansas City wheat on the March is now trading down by 3 3/4 cents. Last trade 505 3/4, within a penny of its low of the day, off of its earlier high from last night by nearly 8 cents right now. So why all the weakness in the grain trade today?
Well, I think the tariff is probably it more than anything. We continue to be lack of trade out there, and we're not real sure what we're facilitating in trade without the USDA reports either. So lack of information, I think, is a large part of it there. But really, it's just the tariffs. We're just not transacting business. Our U.S. dollar has not gone down any at all. It's been fluctuating in a very tight range, so there's been no country to get an advantage for a currency exchange rate. So we're just weak right now.
Wonder how long it takes to really get back in the swing of things and get these overnight export sales announcements going on a daily basis once again.
I don't know, because I would assume that most people continue up with that information. They don't just let it sit there dormant for all these weeks and then go back and try to do it. I would imagine there is some updated information every day that is there, and then to compile it and present it out to the public, that might take a little bit of time. But I think the data is actually still there. It just takes a little while to compile it.
Now, we've been talking at length about the frigid weather moving into the northern plains, the Great Lakes area, the northern Midwest, and I mean incredibly cold air.
Yes.
There has been some speculation that may kind of shut down farmer sales for a while.
Could do it.
What do you think?
It could do it. It's real muddy. Trying to get into all those lots and stuff of the grain bins, it's been muddy. Yeah, I can see where it just nobody really wants to get out and do much of anything. But I think a lot of the grain sales are already made. So if there were to be physical movement, it's probably from a cash forward contract weeks ago that says the delivery date was this week. You know,
Doesn't seem to be supporting Chicago wheat at all. When there was talk about maybe potential for winter kill in the soft red wheat areas.
All right, and it is. I don't know how bad the weather is going to be as far as in those areas just yet, though, because the way that the system droops down, it could miss a lot of that area in there. Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, let's go ahead and we'll take a break here, Chris, and then we'll talk about livestock and maybe how that cold weather may impact livestock and maybe feed prices and their relationship to the livestock. We'll talk about all that when we come back. Well, we're back with you, and we're talking with Chris Swift of Swift Trading Incorporated here in Nashville. And Chris, let's turn our attention over to the livestock trade now, and we'll take a look at live cattle and feeder cattle. A little bit of movement upward in feeders, I believe. So let's go take a look. All right, on the big board right now, on live cattle, we have turned higher by 20 cents. We have February at 126.25 now, and April up 33 at 127.17. If you recall, we opened under a little bit of pressure this morning, so we've come back off of that now. And let's take a look at what's going on in the feeder cattle market. And Chris kind of gave me a hint about this when he came walking in a little bit ago. He said, did you notice the move upward in feeders all of a sudden? Well, we have March feeders now 70 higher at 144.32. And the April contract up 70 at 145.43. Pretty consistent gains from March all the way through August there. Now let's take a look at the lean hog market. And the lean hog trade has really struggled here in the recent week or two. And currently we're mixed. February down 8 cents at 58.30. We have the April contract all by itself up 33 at 62.45. The May contract down 8 at 68.83. While we're on the hogs here, what's with that April all by itself higher when all the rest are lower. That's got to be some type of spread trade.
Probably rolling out of the Feb and into the April. Feb only has 2 weeks left to go once you get into February, so I would imagine it's probably some fund rolling and stuff. But I don't know of anything other than that.
Let's go back on the cattle side here and talk about that a little bit. We have a higher trade right now in the futures, and yet the cash market was $1 lower, I believe, Friday on average compared to the week before.
22.23 is kind of what I heard for the cash trade, and still not big volume. So I think we're still missing some volume there. This cold weather coming in, though, that we mentioned is going to help in some manners. It's going to make it worse for others, but in some areas you'll see the ground get frozen. You'll be able to move some cattle, and I think that's where cattle are anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks backed up right now from where they need to be at this time. So this colder weather should either freeze the ground enough or clear up enough maybe where we can move some inventory out and get it into the areas where it's supposed to be.
Well, now that you bring that up, you know, my colleague John Jenkinson was back in Kansas over the weekend, and he was sending me pictures back of snow covering the ground, but he said it's not very deep. He said it's maybe about that deep.
Right.
But he said the feedlots, you know, where it stays a little warmer and it gets stirred up all the time. He said, boy, are they muddy.
Muddy, yeah. And
muddy.
Maybe the cold weather will freeze that ground. If they can get up on top of it after it gets frozen, they'll perform well. The cold weather is not as bad on them as what the moisture is.
But what about the conversion rates?
Probably still not too awful bad. The mud and the moisture makes for the poor conditions. The cold won't make for as bad a conditions to it. So I think it's more the moisture than the cold.
So what's the deal here? We don't have the lots are not as frozen as you might think, because I understand the weather may stay up in the 30s. I believe,
that's right. Again, because if you look the further west it goes, the least the temperatures are. So it could still stay muddy, but we have a lot of backgrounders around in the southeast and towards the east that like to move cattle and get it out of this mud.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that.
All right.
And you were saying cattle weights you think have been coming up?
I think they will be down pretty sharply if we ever get some data on it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to watch. Well, thanks.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Chris Swift, Swift Trading.
As always, gentlemen, thank you very much for your insight today.